start this meeting. You know, small but mighty. And I do really want some interaction here. So because there's 3 of you, it's a heavy lift, but you know, I believe in you. So I have long thought about Ted Lasso, the show. You know, he's a soccer coach. Hey, I'm a soccer coach. Like, what are the things that I could really take away from the show as a coach? And I think there's actually a lot. I think there's unplumbed depths. I don't know. They're fairly well plumbed, probably, but you know, I think there are a lot of things that we can take away. You know, I have my believe sign here, and you know, Lasso always lets his players know that he really does believe in them and in a deep way, and that he's always on their side. And so my question for y'all is, how do you let your players know you believe in them? What are some things that you do on the field that contribute to that sense? Anyone? Bueller? Or do you?
I think trying to cheer as loudly and be as boisterous after we give up a goal as when we get a goal.
Yeah.
Just kind of staying positive no matter what the situation is.
Yeah. Josh, how about you? Or you have the bleak outlook, do you?
No. I conceal that from them. No, yeah. I mean, I think whenever I'm always like, you know, like you do, like watching, like when they're practicing and when they're playing, and I'm like always like watching for like the things that they're doing that we worked on or whatever. And like when I try to like anytime I see them do something that is like a good move or a smart move or something that we practice, I like really let them know about it, you know.
Yeah.
And like really loud, and I hope that carries the message that like I'm watching them, and I know when they are doing good things. So it doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah. Specific praise is more important than general praise. So like, good job is fine, but like, good job taking that player on in the dribble, you know, or good job, like, I love the idea behind that pass, or, you know, I really love how you got into that challenge. Like, specific praise does a lot more than general praise, right? So I'm always on the sideline. I'm not quiet. There's a lot of philosophy when it comes to coaching that, you know, you should really just shut up and the kids do their thing. I'm not so much one of those people, but I'm going to be loud all game, most likely. But I'm going to be yelling 2 things. One is usually about positioning, push up, pinch in, you know, get back, you know, like that sort of thing is one thing, and the other is positive praise. You know, when I see them doing something that I like, just like you're saying, you know, if, hey, I love the idea behind that run, you know, or like, I saw you make that run, you were open, you were in space, like, great job. You know, I'm always giving encouragement, all the time. And another thing, you know, there's the famous being a goldfish line, and when I referee games, I will say, well, is anyone here going to make a mistake today? And sometimes people say no, and sometimes they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, hey, guess what? I might make mistakes today too, but if you don't make mistakes, it means you're not trying. So, you know, you have to try stuff in soccer. So a kid that's afraid of making a mistake, I mean, you may see that, and sometimes that comes with parents that are maybe overly aggressive or overly involved. You know, it breaks my heart to see a kid make a mistake and then look for their parents. You know, and you may see that, and you want to encourage. One, you want to discourage the parent from trying to coach from the sideline. Try to keep things positive on the sideline, so they don't have that sort of reaction. but also in practices and in games when kids are trying stuff, like that's really where you should encourage them. Because they're going to make mistakes, but I've been talking I have one player in particular this season who is obviously really afraid of making mistakes. And I've pulled him aside and like, I can see you like being afraid to make mistakes, or being, if he makes a bad pass, he stops and does this. And I'm like, hey, the best players in the world make mistakes all the time. Every game in the EPL, you're going to see dozens and dozens and dozens of mistakes, and the best players just move past that, and they're right on. So this, being a goldfish thing is exactly right. And so how do you encourage your players to move on from their mistakes? Do you have anything that you do? Open question for the floor.
I mean, we just talk about it. We talk about it. It's one of our kind of team mantras is just mental toughness and
Yeah.
like you said, staying positive, being open to making mistakes, knowing that's part of how we get better. And so it's just something we just every other practice at least, and like kind of reiterating, here's the things that we believe in, and we support each other, and making sure we're we're encouraging each other when we make mistakes. So it's not just me; it's also getting the kids, because occasionally I get a kid that will laugh at another kid when they make a mistake, and trying to not allow that to become part of the kind of the approach and practice.
Yeah, early on, I think when I was 7v7 coach, we adopted a shake it off like thing, where if someone made a mistake, we're like, shake it off, and then we're on. And so that was, it's like, hey, we're gonna shake it off. We actually did the physical shake it off, and then we moved on. And parents play a really big role in this, and something that some kids can really learn to dread is that car ride home. And so messaging to parents about like, hey, on the car ride home, you should say, I love to watch you play, and did you have fun? And we don't ask, did you score and did you win? These, like, especially for rec, right? Like, rec is not about trying to beat everyone. It's about the enjoyment of the game. It's about the experience, about being with teammates, et cetera, et cetera. So, being aware of that, like, where else are they going to get criticized or punished for a mistake? It may be at home, it may be on the car ride, it may be on the sideline, it may be from teammates, right? So, we communicate to give information or to give encouragement. We don't communicate to give criticism. And I have a new keeper this year, came in from another club, and that club I think was pretty negative. He had a bad experience on that team, and I could see like early on, he's like, why weren't you there? I was like, hey, if we frame that and say like, hey, in that position, I need you to slide over. Like I've now given that information a completely different way that doesn't feel like I'm attacking them. I'm telling them what I need. And, there's being afraid of mistakes is a big part of it. And I see that I made a mistake on the slide, and the fish is actually cutting off some of the text. So there's lots of examples of Coach Lasso prioritizing development over wins. And he takes Josh. You're behind the game here because you haven't watched the show. But his star player, he takes him off when he starts being detrimental to the team, even to the team chemistry. And so there's, how do you prioritize development over wins? And this is particularly important, I think, in rec, where it's supposed to be about development. And so how do you emphasize or recognize player development? How do you place that above the win? Or do you? This is a hard thing to do. Everyone wants to win. That's game theory wouldn't exist if we didn't get some sort of dopamine hit from that, right? But are there things that you can do to emphasize player development? Anyone?
I think part of the beauty of rec is everybody's guaranteed to at least get to play half the game, and so I think that always keeps me in check of making sure that everybody's getting equal time. I think where I struggle, where I'm not as good at it, is there's players that want to play positions that it's not their strength, and so finding the time and giving them the opportunities to try that out, even when it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, and so for things like that, I would say having that honest conversation about like, here's what I need to see from you in practice in order to do this. Like it's we should be playing other, especially like 7v7. Players should play lots of different positions, but someone's like, I want to play striker. It's like, here's what I need you to do to play striker. Here's what I need to see from you in practice. I need to see that you're gonna that you can take 5 dribbles in a row. That I need to see that you don't stand by the defender all the time. Whatever it is, whatever that is. But telling the player what they need to do to get that spot that they want to play in, I think that's one way to do it. So Coach Lasso also cares deeply about the players as people, and there's lots of examples, whether it's Jamie's second chance or Sam's political fight with the Nigerian government or Collins coming out, or there's all these examples. A non Ted Lasso quote: "This they won't care how much you know until they know how much you care," does matter, I think, and there's how do you demonstrate that you care about them as people? And that is, that's one of those questions that, comes up, should come up, you should be thinking about. So are there things that you can do to show them you care about them as people? And I'll give an example. I try to greet every kid that comes as they come. I greet them by name. I might give them a fist bump. I ask how they're doing. I'm not busy doing others. I'm not too busy to say hello to the player. I'm always going to greet them as they come to the field. And just a little thing like that where, I'm taking my time to go and greet them. I think something like that matters. Something like, a kid says that they're hurt. Be like, yeah, hey, I want you to sit out if you're hurt. I don't want you to get more hurt, letting them know that you don't want them to play through an injury, that you're not asking them to do that. There will be times too where you have a player who has checked out maybe a bit mentally, seems down. Talk to the parent, pull the parent aside and ask, what's going on. I had that just happen with one of my players just recently, a couple weeks ago on the bench. He seemed really down. And I talked to the mom the next time I saw one of the moms after that weekend. I said, he looked down. Is everything going well? And she's like, I think he's actually hurt. And he just doesn't want to admit it. It's like, oh, that's really good to know. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to have him take it easy and tell him hey, man, I want you to play without pain. You shouldn't be doing that. I don't want you to be more hurt. So, there's things like that. If you have any examples, now's the time. Anything? We can move on otherwise.
Well, I did something similar to you where I would greet everybody when they come in. It was one of the trainings that we had. And I was like, yeah, just taking that 5 seconds to acknowledge that they're here. And then the 5 seconds to, say goodbye. I thought that's been helpful.
Yeah.
And then luckily, well, not, it's just how, most of our players go to the same school. So whenever I see them, I just give a quick like high five or like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll see you at practice tonight, like that type of
Yeah.
acknowledgement. I think
Yeah.
it's been helping with at least like the team culture.
Yeah. Team culture is super important. And as a parent coach, like it probably is more important. You're going to see the value of it more than one of the professional coaches who has 4 teams. Like you're gonna see those kids a lot more in lots of different facets of their life. So yeah, it certainly is important. And so you could say, well, yeah, this is a show, but it's not real, right? So can you actually coach like Ted Lasso? I don't have the dance moves, quite frankly. But that's a question. Like, okay, so if you're going to take things away from Ted Lasso, is Ted Lasso actually like a model to be a coach? And there actually are plenty of examples of Ted Lasso like coaches, and some of them are some of the most revered coaches out there. There's Rebecca looking up at the pyramid. Does anyone know what that pyramid is, or where it comes from? Well, I guess you know.
Is that John Wooden?
John Wooden Pyramid of Success.
Yeah.
And it's in the show, and this is it. So John Wooden, legendary basketball coach from UCLA, had this pyramid of success, and he had that. He drilled that into his players, and it wasn't just about how you did on the field; it was about who you were as a person. And I have introduced it to my kids to various levels. Some of them are going to definitely know what it is. Some of them are not really going to have an idea of what it is. Depends on how much they're paying attention to me. But the base, this industriousness, friendship, loyalty, cooperation, enthusiasm. It's like kind of like, if you have a player who's demonstrating these things, you're going to have a good time, and they're going to be a good teammate and a good friend and maybe a good person. So that wasn't made up. This is a real thing. I've read his book. It's heavy on faith, which isn't necessarily my bag, but you can skip those sections if you're so inclined, or you can read him if you're so inclined. But he had a lot of success in growing not just good basketball players, but good people as well. Jim Harbaugh actually has a bunch of ties to Ted Lasso, including the look. I mean, the look looks a little bit familiar here, right? Like the khakis, the shirt, the sunglasses. Now, I'll tell you, for your kids, I think sunglasses are probably a mistake, and you shouldn't wear them on the field. They should be able to see your eyes when you're talking to them. They should see your eyes. So maybe that matters less if you're coaching a professional football team, but if you're coaching 7v7 soccer, then have the kids be able to see your eyes. But this quote from one of the people that he had coached and helped, this like he helped flip the switch from being in that dark negative place to remembering who I was, and changed the trajectory of his career just by sort of being relentlessly positive and believing in people and having them know and understand that they were believed in. Like that can have a real impact on kids. So Emma Hayes has some elements of this, but also is like, will definitely curse more and be more direct. But she's the new U.S. women's national team coach. And I love this, when she asked, how she changed the trajectory of the team, she said love. And she really encouraged the players to like find within them that kid who played for the love of the game. And that's what she asked her players to bring to the Olympics, and and they won a gold. So she's a pretty tenacious person. Maybe she's a little bit Roy Kent and a little bit Ted Lasso, but she is. She's had tremendous success. Maybe the most successful women's coach out there in soccer, and currently, I believe, the highest paid. And then you even have Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp, like, his hugs are legendary. And he's known for empathy, optimism, building strong team morale. Like that sounds like Ted Lasso. And he's also a pretty good coach and a successful coach. So you have one of the best coaches in the modern game. Like he's pretty Lasso-ish. Maybe knows more about the game, but that's his foundation is like building that strong team chemistry, but also like just being relentlessly positive. And a thing that it doesn't hurt to remind yourself every once in a while, only 1% of all high school players go on to play Division I soccer. Not that Division II or Division III can't be a lot of fun, but only 8% of high school age players go on to play. Of all high school players, 8% of high school age players going to play Division I soccer. I think that was for girls. 8% of all high school age girls go on to play Division I soccer, and 1% of boys do. And those players are almost all coming from the very highest level, competitive levels within the U.S., which for the boys are going to be ECNL and MLS Next. We currently do not have an ECNL team in Alameda Soccer Club. We do have an ECNL RL, which is Elite Club, National League, Regional League. We have 3 teams playing that. We do not have an MLS Next franchise. All 3 of the ECNL RL teams are girls teams. It's the 09 girls, the 12 girls, and the 13 girls. And on the girls, there's also something called Girls Academy, which is up there around ECNL. So the Division I players come almost exclusively from those top 2 levels, and they don't come from anywhere else. So and that goes, if we're MLS Next, ECNL, ECNL RL, NPL, Premier, Gold, Silver, Bronze, Copper, Rec. So the odds of our players going on to be the next Messi or the next Trinity Rodman are low. And so that can't be the aim, right? We can't judge success or failure on whether they make it to those heights. Success or failure is going to be, do they want to come back? Do they want to play? Do they play on their own? Do they understand the game? Can they watch a game and know what's going on? Do they play college intramural sports? Do they play an adult league? When they're 25. It's about building strong minds and bodies, and it's about having that positive experience. And as a coach, you're in a unique position to provide that positive experience. And I think a lot of us grew up where coaches were not thinking that their job was to provide a positive experience, and it could be kind of negative. And the last slide I have here as a coach or a parent, you can't make your kid love what you love, but you can make them hate it. And you probably have some experience or some coach or can think of one that made you not want to play. And I had a baseball coach who was like that, who I was injured. He had me start the game pitching when I had tendonitis in my rotator cuff and I couldn't really throw very well, which is required for a pitcher. And I gave up 5 runs in the first 2/3 of an inning. And he never came out to check on me. He never asked how I was. He just yelled at me from the dugout. And when I left the field that day, I never played again. And, it was just that coach. But I also can think about my own father, who was my rec soccer coach for a year. He didn't know anything about soccer, still doesn't. And I have a friend who still calls him coach. He's 83. Not my friend, my dad. That's the kind of impact you can have on a kid. Some kid will call you coach in 20 or 30 years from the experience of being on your team, now. That's a sacred trust. And I think that there are lots of things that we can bring from even Ted Lasso to help that experience be a positive one for our players. And that is all I have. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Or not.
Well,
I love that's a great way to just wrap it up. I think yeah, I have those same memories that I can think of kind of personal experiences. So it's good kind of motivation.
Yeah. Helen, you have something?
oh yeah. I love the last slide where you said, can you be a good coach? Like, can Ted Lasso be a good coach? Like, is that something we can bring to rec? And honestly, that was I love the show. It was my motivation. I know nothing about soccer, but I know how to be positive and believe in my kids. And so when our previous head coach asked me if I wanted to be, I hummed and hawed, and I was like, I don't know. But I really, but I remember going to the PCA meeting, and you mentioned your story about your dad.
Yeah.
And then, I really, I was like, yeah, maybe I could do it. Like, why not? Let's see. And I just appreciate this meeting because it shows that being a good coach isn't about knowing the skills of soccer. I mean, that really, really does help. But it's also about championing our kids and making sure they have, a coach who believes in them and that can push them to be a better player and a better person. I don't know if I can give a lot of good life advice, but I can always be their strongest cheerleader on the field. Yeah. So I appreciate this. I'm learning soccer as I go with these kids. But I have two great assistant coaches who knows the game, and they are the ones who are providing all the technical support. So
I started coaching when my son needed a coach for 5v5, and my wife was like, "You should do it." I'm like, I've never been coached in soccer. I was a basketball player growing up, and then I started playing intramural soccer in college because as a former basketball player, I didn't care if I had a bad game because I wasn't a soccer player. So I started actually just enjoying playing, and I played indoor for the next 25 years. But I didn't get coached as a soccer player outside of the year that my dad coached me. And so I was like, I don't know how to do that. She's like, you'll figure it out. And I have, if you invest the time, you can learn the technical stuff. You can learn the game, but it's the mentality that you bring that is really going to make the experience a good one or a negative one for the kids. So, thank you for the comment, Helen. That's fantastic. And I think that's a fantastic note to end on. So we've recorded this and we'll share it with the club, and so people that couldn't make it this year or in future years will be able to dip in and maybe find out what Ted Lasso has to share. So thank you all for being here. And
yeah, thanks for putting this together.